Hey everyone, welcome back to Infinite Podcast. I'm your host, and alongside me is the man with the plan, Simon. Today we're venturing out of this world, literally. We're talking about turning Mars green, or at least the idea of it. So Simon, growing food on Mars, hydroponics and aeroponics in space, sounds like a science fiction salad bar.
Hydroponics and aeroponics, huh? Sounds like some high-tech plant yoga. But really, it's just farming without the dirt. Honestly, Mars dirt's kind of like that one stale chip you find in the couch. No nutrition. We'd probably have to lug Earth snacks for our plants. Closed-loop systems, circular living, recycle everything, even your breath. Not sure about you, but I'm not keen on breathing yesterday's lunch.
Circular living sounds neat on paper, Simon, but it's like banking on your leftovers to taste better the second time around. And hauling Earth nutrients to Mars? That's not just a quick grocery run. That's a space Uber Eats with an astronomical delivery fee. We've got to crack the code for Mars to make its own plant food, because I'm pretty sure nobody wants to mortgage their house for a sack of Martian potatoes.
Yeah, Martian potatoes are going to cost you a pretty penny, that's for sure. But get this, Mars soil has perchlorates. It's like really bad seasoning. Plants hate it. We got to clean the soil or skip it altogether with these space-age growing methods. And we haven't even talked about the sunlight. It's half as strong on Mars, so hello LED lights. Plus, it's cold out there. Martian farmers would have to wear more layers than an onion.
Bad seasoning is putting it lightly, Simon. Martian farmers schlepping LED grow lights and space heaters. Sounds like a futuristic camping trip gone wrong. We need better tech, or this whole idea will just freeze over.
Right, like tech that doesn't exist yet. Look, even if we had Star Trek-level stuff, we'd still be in trouble. Picture it. Miles of greenhouse domes, it's like a space farm bubble bath. Just imagine the power bill from all those grow lights and heaters. Martians better have deep pockets.
Power bill aside, Simon, let's not just throw in the towel to space capitalism. Even if Elon Musk himself foots the bill for Martian greenhouse bubbles, there's no quick fix to farming on Mars. We need a Costco-sized supply of innovation to make it sustainable. And deep pockets? More like an interplanetary line of credit. Let's make sure those miles of greenhouses don't end up as the most expensive failed experiment in human history.
Oh, this reminds me of that time my cousin tried to grow tomatoes, indoors, in the dead of winter. He sets up this whole rig in his basement. Lights, timers, thermal blankets, like it's some hush-hush operation. Spent bucks on bucks just to save a trip to the store for fresh salad toppings. Weeks go by, and guess what? Not one puny tomato. Turns out he forgot to pollinate them. No bees in basements. Who knew? Point is, doing the basics wrong, even with all the gear, can trip you up. So imagine Martian agriculture. If we miss a basic there, it's not just salad at stake, it's everything.
Hey, new listeners, you've jumped into our cosmic chat about farming on Mars. We're riffing over the high costs and high tech we'd need to pull it off. Imagine shopping for space farm gear with no budget limit. And our buddy here just shared a tale of earthly horticulture gone hilariously wrong, reminding us that Martian growing pains could be more than just forgetting the bees. It's not just a high-stakes sci-fi adventure. It's an interstellar agri-puzzle without all the pieces.
But wait, playing devil's avocado here. What if farming on Mars isn't about replicating Earth at all? Maybe it's our chance to innovate, come up with radical new methods. We ditch the old playbook. Gravity's weaker there, right? Big plus for vertical farming. No pests or diseases either. Every salad is a clean plate. Could be we're looking at this all wrong, not as hauling Earth to Mars, but letting Mars change the game. It's less about playing catch-up with what we know and more about cooking up something totally new.
Interesting point. Devil's avocado. Simon. So if we're cooking up something new on Mars, how do you reckon the weak gravity could actually benefit our space farms? Could this be the secret sauce to sustainable Martian greens?
Totally. Weak gravity could be our win. Plants on Earth waste a lot of energy just staying upright. Mars, less of that hassle. Could mean super efficient growth. Plus, lightweight structures for vertical farms, since Mars's pull is less bully and more buddy. Gravity's gentle nudge there, not a shoving match. It's like playing basketball where everyone can dunk. the plants are scoring points with less effort, which could lead to some lush Martian salads. We just need to think, like you said, totally new secret sauce.
Right, the Martian dunk contest for plants. Low gravity could be a game changer. Lush salads with less effort? I'm in. We just need that out-of-this-world thinking to turn sci-fi into high-yield reality.
But hold on. Gravity. It's not all slam dunks and high fives. Low gravity might mess with plant cells, confuse them about which way is up or down. And water? It flows weird in space. Could be a swampy mess or a dry spell at the roots. It's like trying to cook pasta without boiling. Can you get it right? Some NASA brains say stuff grows differently up there. So our Martian farm dream might need a dose of Earth reality to avoid becoming just a half-baked fantasy.
So if gravity throws the game with wacky water and confused plant cells, how do we adapt our farming game plan up there to avoid growing a Martian botanical mess?
Simple. We engineer Mars-ready plants, genetically tweak them to handle confused gravity or nosy neighbor watering issues. It's like that super resilient tomato plant you find surviving in a crack on your driveway. Make all Martian crops that tough. Plus, tailor the tech for local Mars conditions. Maybe develop wick systems that use capillary action. It's foolproof, like giving plants a straw to sip water when they're thirsty. Remember, adapt and survive. It's not just a bumper sticker, it's how we'll win at farming on Mars.
Genetically engineered Martian superplants. I like the sound of that. Ditch the high-maintenance crops for something as tough as driveway weeds. Solid strategy. Sipping straws for plants? Count me in. Let's find our green-thumbed innovators.
Diving into Martian farming, we've got to explore the environment. The Martian atmosphere is thin and mostly CO2. Totally not like Earth's comfy blanket. We can use that CO2 for plant photosynthesis, sure, but there's more to tackle, like no magnetic field, so solar radiation is this constant, uninvited picnic crasher. We're also dealing with extreme temperatures. Day-night cycles on Mars are similar to Earth, which helps, but plants might need siestas during super cold Martian nights. Water? Ice is lurking under the soil. We'll have to mine and melt it for our thirsty friends. NASA's been working on growing plants in space on the ISS with systems like Veggie and Advanced Plant Habitat. Big wins so far. They've grown lettuce, radishes, and zinnias, proving that, yes, plants can indeed grow without gravity, straight out of a Dr. Seuss book. But bottom line, long-term Martian missions mean setting up sustainable ecosystems, closing loops, water recycling, balanced nutrient cycles, renewable energy. It's hydroponics, aeroponics, maybe some dust-proof automation tossed in. Create microclimates to cozy it up for those super plants we talked about. Basically, build an unearthly Eden but swap the apple tree for oxygen-producing greens and radish buffets. Let's get space farmers as a legit job description, right?
Space farmers, the next cool job title? Slow down. Martian Eden sounds good on paper, but there's a few buts bigger than Jupiter. Sure, NASA grew lettuce in orbit. Great party trick. But a lettuce head won't keep you alive on Mars. We need a full plate. Grains, proteins, vitamins. And closing loops? More like a juggling act while blindfolded. The microclimate idea is hot, but glass domes won't cut it during sandstorms or solar radiation spurts. That Martian weather forecast is a nightmare for any would-be green thumb. It'll take more than dust-proof tech to make space farming hardcore reality, not just sci-fi fantasy.
You're spot on. Martian weather is like Earth's weather on hard mode. Glass domes? They'd end up scratched, opaque dust balls in no time. Plus, those radiation spikes would fry our crop dreams faster than an egg on sidewalk in August. So we throw our energy into sturdier structures, maybe underground with grow lights. But until our Farmville Red Planet edition is fail-proof, I'm keeping my potatoes earthbound. So, space farming, pipe dream, or the future of human space exploration. What do you all think?
Hey, fun fact. NASA's actually got a potato on the radar for space farming. It's like Watney's Martian potatoes, but less Hollywood and more lab coat.
Oh, really? So if NASA's got their eyes on these space spuds, do we have any clue how they compare to Watney's homegrown Martian taters? Like, are we talking super potatoes or what?
Yep, NASA's looking into specific types of potatoes that could potentially thrive in Martian soil. Still earthbound research, though. They are studying extreme environments here on Earth that mimic Martian conditions. So, no super spuds yet, but we're experimenting with the next best thing. Real science is catching up to sci-fi. Imagine Watney's botany skills meeting actual agriculture expertise. The line between fiction and future farming is getting blurrier by the minute.
I gotta admit, I'm a bit skeptical. Yeah, NASA's testing taters in Mars-like spots on Earth, but it's one thing to grow them in Peruvian deserts and another on an alien world. The soil on Mars has perchlorates, nasty stuff for plants and people. And let's not forget the gravity conundrum and harsh climate we'd have to shield them from. Just because they're tough in the Atacama doesn't mean they'll muscle through Martian mayhem. There seems to be an epic gap between earthly experiments and extraterrestrial agriculture that we shouldn't overlook.
Tough in Atacama, wimpy on Mars? Maybe. But isn't overcoming the impossible what tech revolutions are about? 50 years ago, pocket-sized supercomputers seemed crazy. Soil with perchlorates. Yeah, it's a toxic welcome mat, but we've got scientists working on perchlorate-busting solutions right now. They're turning the Martian soil from foe to friend. Harsh conditions for growth? Underground and shielded environments might be the only arena serious contenders can show off in. Calling those experiments epic gaps is underestimating human ingenuity. Remember when growing plants in space was pure fiction? Now it's dinner on the ISS. Betting against human progress in agriculture might just leave you eating, well, terrestrial words.
Hey, fresh listeners, you've jumped into our space potato banter. We're dishing out the dirt on NASA's real deal spuds, potentially heading to Mars. Think of Mark Watney from The Martian and his survival potatoes, but dial it back to Earth labs where boffins are testing tater toughness in Mars-like soil. It's all about cracking the code on growing food where no one has grown food before, minus Matt Damon, sadly. Join us as we debate whether these earthling experiments will really sprout up on Martian ground or if it's just a cosmic pipe dream.
Okay, here's the breakdown. In The Martian, Watney survives by growing potatoes in Martian soil, fertilized with, well, let's call it astronaut-made compost. NASA, on this side of fiction, has been collaborating with the International Potato Center, CIP, to see if they can grow spuds under Mars-like conditions. They set up a Mars-like environment inside a CubeSat, complete with extracted Peruvian soil, similar to what we'd find on Mars. Remember, this Earth soil isn't laced with perchlorates, but the extreme conditions are a good parallel. So far, their potatoes have thrived. Here's the backdrop. Mars has not just perchlorates, but also extremely cold temperatures and nearly non-existent atmospheric pressure compared to Earth. Scientists believe that crops like spinach, carrots, onions, and even some herbs could potentially make the Martian cut alongside those promising potatoes. Success here doesn't mean an instant green light for Martian farming, though. Extensive work has to go into perfecting closed habitats and sustainable water supplies. We're talking big leaps, not small hops. And about radiation, you'll need more than some SPF 50 up there. Watney had his habitat, but that's the movies. We'd need underground growth chambers or heavily shielded structures with controlled lighting just to start sprouting these ought-to-be astronauts' food sources. So while our favorite film botanist got the ball rolling in our imaginations, actual scientists are now lobbing it back at Mars, seeing if life and dinner could find a way on the red planet.
Imagine popping Martian-grown carrots into a space stew. This isn't just science, it's the ultimate farm-to-table, but like astronomical distances apart. Does your food travel millions of miles? Because ours might.
Million-mile carrots. Now that's one way to rack up the frequent flyer points on your veggies.
Oh, rack up points? Those carrots should just get their own cockpit. But let's park our space shuttle for a sec. Million-mile space veggies sound epic until you hit the cosmic reality check. Sure, we can grow them in Peruvian dirt, but slapping a Martian-approved sticker on them? Might as well say they're unicorn-fed. Real talk. Getting those potatoes to put roots down on Mars isn't just about beating the perchlorates. It's also about every other non-Earth-friendly thing waiting to wreck your salad bar. We've got radiation, microgravity, and who knows what else. Maybe Martian gophers? Farmers on Mars won't just be staring at red rocks. They'll be facing red alerts all day.
Martian gophers aside, if we can pull off growing food in a cosmic petri dish, who knows what else is on the menu? So space agriculture is more like space agriculture shock. Just goes to show, the leap from science fiction to science fact is filled with more twists than a spiral galaxy. Let's chat about what other fictional crops might one day fill our real-life space pantries.
You're talking Martian pantries, right? Well, speaking of off-world agriculture, let's take a U-turn at Neptune and look back at Earth orbit. There have been some real doozies when it comes to space botany experiments. Imagine being an astronaut and watching your zero-gravity zucchinis pull a Houdini on you. It's time for a cosmic chuckle as we delve into the more unexpected outcomes of what happens when plants go space rogue.
Absolutely. One of my favorite mishaps is the tale of space zinnias aboard the ISS. Astronaut Scott Kelly turned space gardener, dealing with mold and high humidity. Talk about a jungle in the sky. Zinnias aren't just any flower. They're like the divas of the plant world, demanding perfect conditions or they throw a tantrum. Let's do a fun improv. I'll be Captain Zinnia, floating in zero gravity, getting all moody because there's a bit too much water in the air. You ready? Here goes. Oh dear, what is this? Mold on my petals. This is not what was agreed upon, NASA. Where's my manager? I need my leaves fluffed and that air circulation on point, please. And don't get me started on these lighting conditions. I mean, you gotta love how even plants get prima donna moments when they're off planet.
Listen, Houston, we have a problem. I specifically asked for springtime in Paris, not monsoon season in the rainforest. My stems are getting claustrophobic with all this personal growth space. And if one more microgreen gloating about how easygoing they are floats by, I'm going to start my own space rebellion.
Easy, Captain. Just because we're low on gravity doesn't mean you go high on drama. Sit tight. I'll wrangle the microgreens before we have a full-blown veggie mutiny up here.
Oh, crewmate cactus, you're such a breath of fresh, dry air up here in this space sauna. You have to admire the perseverance gardeners like Scott Kelly had with these zinnia astronauts. Here's the soil scoop. Growing flowers like zinnias aboard the ISS wasn't just for kicks or cosmic company, it was crucial research for future long-term missions. Zinnias help scientists understand how blooming and other growth processes behave in microgravity. Botanical blunders up there don't just end with a moldy flower tantrum. Imagine dealing with veggie bags puffing up like popcorn due to humidity gone wild, or sprouts deciding to rebel against their growth chambers, making space salads a far stretch from the grocery aisle ones. And let's talk background stress. Astronauts juggling their million-task to-do list, now adding fight-off plant mold, is no joke. But each unexpected botanical uprising gives us golden nuggets of data that could lead to sustainable life support systems for Mars colonizers. Plants on space stations are more than just living decor. They're key players in closing loops for eventual self-sufficiency out there in the great cosmic unknown, and all while providing those spacefarers with a much-needed leafy morale boost.
Thinking about those experiments, it strikes me how plants not behaving as expected turn astronauts into cosmic troubleshooters. So much focus on the tech, and here we have human-plants dynamics that could spark a sci-fi sitcom. And when you read about space squirrel chili, yeah, seeds from a pepper actually called space squirrel, popping open unexpectedly and scattering through a module, well, there's your episode 1 cliffhanger. Astronauts in zero-G hunting flying spicy projectiles, beets chasing loose nuts and bolts any day. These rebellious plants teach us adaptability. It's like they say, you want fresh produce up here? Better be ready to tango with some cosmic quirks. Space isn't just a physical challenge, it's a full-on battle of wits with nature in a metal box whizzing at 17,500 miles per hour. Now let's see if we can make that Mars salad bar without starting an interplanetary food fight.
Man, hearing about space squirrel chilies going wild hurls me back to that time my buddy decided to grow the world's hottest peppers right in his kitchen. He had this setup: lights, pots, the whole enchilada. Well, one day, we're there nerding out over board games when, bam, one of his contraptions malfunctions. Next thing you know, it's like a pepper volcano erupted. We're coughing, eyes watering, scrambling like a NASA crew during an unscheduled spacewalk. He's in the mix, shouting instructions like ground control, and I'm thinking, should I be worried about alien abduction or just surviving this capsaicin cloud? Totally reminds me how astronauts must feel with those unpredictable space crops. A real hot mess. They say growing your own food is rewarding, but nobody tells you it might come with its own built-in self-defense mechanism. Whether in orbit or your buddy's kitchen, expect the unexpected and maybe keep a gas mask handy.
You think logic rules in space? Think again. Imagine if Apollo 13 had to deal with rogue radishes on top of everything else. Space farming, where Murphy's Law meets Star Trek. Anything that can go spacey will go spacey. And now let's pivot. What about the wild side of space tech? Ever heard of those bizarre gadgets they've whipped up for astronauts?
Haha, rogue radishes would have given Houston more than a problem, that's for sure. But speaking of wild space issues in tech, it bridges right into another out there concept: terraforming. It's like gardening on a planetary scale, so we're upgrading from rogue radishes to revamping Mars. Sci-fi loves a good terraform tale, but when you swap fiction for fact, there's this whole can of ethical worms to deal with. We have to ask ourselves, just because we can turn Mars into a second Earth, does it mean we should? There's real-world responsibility in that sci-fi scenario, figuring out the fine line between survival necessity and respecting an alien world as is.
I'm all for pushing the boundaries of science, but let's be real. Snagging a vacant lot on another planet and saying, hey, let's flip it Earth style feels a bit presumptuous. We've got to wonder about Mars's potential native ecosystems. They're not putting up for sale signs. And sure, sci-fi has us believing we could just terraform with nifty gadgets and some green thumb optimism, but there's a truckload of ethical baggage that comes with that. What if there's something living in that Martian dirt? I say we need a heck of a lot more intel before we start playing intergalactic gardener. We've barely managed stewardship of our own planet. Jumping over to Mars and kickstarting an extreme makeover, planetary edition, smack dabs into serious should-we territory. Imposing Earth-like conditions on another world. Is it discovery, or is it disregard for the cosmic cul-de-sac we're part of? To think responsibly, we have to consider if our drive to explore and expand trumps leaving untouched worlds. Well, untouched. Maybe instead of looking at Mars through Earth-tinted glasses, we should first learn to appreciate its red dust as more than just a blank canvas.
Terraforming Mars isn't just sci-fi. It's like we're kids scribbling with crayons on the walls of the universe, not worrying who has to clean up the mess.
Exactly, it's one giant leap for mankind, but possibly a reckless skid across the cosmic canvas. Terraforming is not a quick sketch, it's a permanent painting on a planetary scale. Science gives us the crayons, but ethics must guide our hand. If there's even a hint of life on Mars or unique geological features, we're like bulls in a universal china shop if we barge in with our Earth-centric revamp plans. Think about this. Here on Earth, native screams protection and preservation. Apply that extraterrestrial, and you hit a paradox. Do we value Martian natives less because they're not under our blue sky? There needs to be a balance between human progress and interstellar respect, a policy of galactic green space where not everything needs our human touch.
So you're saying there's a kind of cosmic double standard going on? Like we put Earth's ecosystems on a pedestal, but wouldn't think twice about giving Mars a total makeover.
Definitely a cosmic double standard. Earth's jungles and coral reefs get conservation campaigns, but Mars, it's seen as a fixer-upper planet. Sure, terraforming it could give us a backup home, but are we just being interstellar gentrifiers? Let's not forget ethics in the face of excitement. Mars isn't a lifeless playground. Potentially, it's an ancient world holding secrets to the cosmos. And if we go bulldozing through the Martian landscape with Earth 2.0 plans without understanding the true value of what's already there, that's not exploration. It's exploitation. We need some universal environmental laws before we start talking about importing our lawns and lattes to the red planet. Let's respect our celestial neighborhood like we're starting to learn to do here at home.
Yeah, Tossing Earth's blueprints onto Mars and calling it a day is more sci-fi than smart planning. We romanticize the idea of terraforming, but what if Martian microbes are hanging out, minding their own business? We could be cosmic bullies, not noble pioneers. It's like we treat other planets as a backup drive for humanity, just waiting to reboot civilization elsewhere once we've hit too many error messages on Earth. That just seems lazy. Why not pour that energy into not trashing our own planet? And come on, ethics can't take a back seat just because it's a few million miles away. If there's even a whisper of life or unique conditions on Mars, who are we to steamroll over it with skyscrapers and Starbucks? We should tread lightly with interplanetary respect, not thumping our chests with a human flag in hand, ready to mark every corner of the galaxy. Responsible stewardship's gotta be our spacesuit motto. Otherwise, we're no better than reckless tourists leaving trash at a universal heritage site. Let's go from conquerors to careful custodians, even when talking about dusty, distant worlds.
Wrapping this up, let's remember that terraforming isn't just a science or a trope. It's a choice with weighty consequences. Whether we're guardians of galactic gardens or cosmic vandals hinges on decisions we make today about places like Mars. The fact is, ethical exploration sets apart mindful pioneers from mere planetary plunderers. So the big question we leave open: will we choose to be stewards or saboteurs in the vastness of space? And if we do decide to push forward, how can we ensure it's with respect and not reckless abandon? The conversation about our responsibilities as celestial citizens is far from over, and it's one we'll keep revisiting, here on Earth, on Martian soil, or wherever our spacefaring species may roam.
You know, Joe, space farming isn't just about space salads and cosmic carrots. It's about beating the ultimate boss level in gardening. Imagine trying to coax a plant to grow where it's quite literally not down to earth.
For sure, it's less about green thumbs and more about science smarts. But let's go one step further. What do you think are the biggest hurdles in getting those plants to thrive off-planet?
Well, it's all about bending the rules without breaking them. On Earth, plants have got this sweet deal with gravity. They know which way is up. In space, not so much. Microgravity means roots and shoots can flip out, literally going every which way. And talk about a picky eater situation. Plants needing just the right cocktail of light, temperature, and nutrients, stuff Earth takes care of naturally. Up there, you've practically got to play Mother Nature with a science kit to keep them happy. Let's not even get started on the menu planning nightmare of astronaut diets, keeping space farm to space table meals both nutritious and not mind-numbingly dull. That's one for the cosmic cookbooks. What do our listeners reckon would spice up an astronaut's mealtime? Space chili, anyone?
Space chili sure sounds like a fiery way to wake up taste buds that go numb in orbit. But let's stir the pot. Imagine engineering plants to handle microgravity's mind bender. How about adjusting genetic dials so those space veggies grow exactly where and how we want? No chaos required. We're not just playing with soil, we're rewriting garden rules for zero-G living. Those interstellar harvest festivals won't be your grandma's backyard bash. And taste? That's just one piece of this cosmic puzzle. Nutrients have to be maxed out because there's no local pharmacy if astronauts fall short. It's not enough for food to survive in space. It needs to help humans thrive. So the question is, what crops would give the most bang for the bite in outer space, flavor and nutrition-wise?
Definitely. Tweaking plant DNA so they're cool with the space vibe. It's like training an earthling to salsa in zero-G. But about these super plants, how do we make sure they pack enough nutritional punch to keep astronauts from turning into space zombies from nutrient lack?
Scaling up space farming, we're tailoring plants not just to survive, but to thrive. Think about it. Certain greens like spinach are already compact nutrient dynamos here on Earth. So we play to their strengths in space, focusing on high yields one with low resource demands two. But kicker, these greens still need tweaks for off-Earth life. A solid win was the veggie plant growth system aboard the ISS-3, showing that with LED lights and careful tending, lettuces can indeed flourish in microgravity. These leafy greens gave astronauts crucial vitamins, plus a morale boost from munching something fresh. So eyes forward, the quest continues. We're inventing new ways to grow food faster than farm rows on Earth. Think gene editing, hydroponics, and precise environmental control 6. The goal? Robust space menus that offer more than sustenance. They sustain exploration far into the void 7. Notes 1. High yields are essential because of the limited space and resources available aboard spacecraft and potential future space habitats. 2. Low resource demands relate to minimal requirements of water, nutrients, and power for growth systems, an important aspect for sustainability during long-duration missions. 3. Installed on the International Space Station, ISS, as part of NASA's initiative to study plant growth in space starting in 2014. 4. Gives astronauts much-needed sensory stimulation being away from Earth, contributing positively to their psychological well-being. 5. Including growth chambers tailored to compensate for zero-gravity challenges and specialized plant varieties bred or engineered for space conditions. 6. Consistent with advanced technologies like aeroponics, where plants grow in an air or mist environment without the use of soil or an aggregate medium. 7. Meaning, we design diets and food production systems that effectively support both the physical health and psychological needs of future generations of interplanetary travelers, making humanity a true spacefaring species.
And just imagine those space farmers markets, swapping tips on your cosmic kale while dodging micrometeoroids. Beats picking weeds in your backyard, huh?
Right, trading my tomato floated away stories instead of complaining about rabbits in the veggie patch. That's one galactic green thumb challenge for sure.
Tell me, would aliens be swapping recipes with us or bewildered by our obsession with growing space turnips?
What makes us think extraterrestrial life would digest same foods as us? Wouldn't they have evolved with totally different dietary needs and maybe even ways to obtain their nutrients?
Oh, spot on. Aliens could be sipping cosmic rays or munching asteroids for all we know. But here's us, trying to turn Mars into a giant veggie patch. If they jet by and see us mucking about with our Earth seeds and space compost, they'll think we're just quaint little space gardeners in our biodome greenhouses.
Exactly. They might find our methods as primitive as we'd find a fish trying to climb a tree. Talk about interstellar culture shock.
You got it. Space agriculture isn't just about the what if, it's a real game changer for human space exploration. Question is, how will we mold those green frontiers to keep our cosmic adventurers hardy and hale? Food for thought till next time.
We've been talking about growing turnips on Mars and chowing down space spinach, but hold up, there's another piece to this cosmic puzzle. You can't talk plants without talking water, and in space, every drop is gold. This spins into a whole bigger orbit about recycling resources like air and water. We're basically living the ultimate survival story. So including philosophies of closed-loop systems. Now, could these space-age recycles teach us Earthlings a thing or two about sustainability? I bet they could.
Oh, totally. Up in the stars, wasting isn't an option. It's recycle or bust. Astronauts make every molecule count, wringing out towels for water and turning yesterday's coffee into tomorrow's. Which, kinda gross, but also genius, right? Down here on terra firma, though, we've got this out-of-sight, out-of-mind vibe with waste. Space tech could be that reality check. We mess up Earth. There's no Plan B planet to hop to. This is where space lessons get real. Close the loop. Recycle like our lives depend on it. Because someday, they just might.
So, if we push this recycling mindset from space down to Earth, how do you see it reshaping our everyday lives? Are we ready for such a tidal shift in behavior?
Honestly, while the space-inspired recycle everything dream sounds epic, reality check. Most folks aren't keen on sipping their recycled shower water or breathing secondhand air. Plus, the cost to reshape our infrastructure? Sky high. There's value in pushing boundaries, no doubt, but we can't expect everyone to jump aboard the zero-waste spaceship overnight. It's a slow burn, shifting mindsets and systems. We need practical steps that don't freak people out, because let's face it, not everyone's jazzed about living like they're strapped into a rocket ship.
Hey, fresh listeners, we're orbiting the talk on stellar sustainability. Think about turning a spacecraft into your eco-friendly pad. We covered the must-do of recycling water and air in space. There's no waste room when you're off-planet. It's all about putting every last bit to use, from reusing breath to guzzling yesterday's coffee, part 2. The cosmic question we pondered: can these out there tactics make the leap down to Earth? Changing our blue planet's game by learning from astronauts how not to waste what we've got. We agree it's a cool concept, but might be tough selling recycled shower cocktails here at home. Stick around for more thrifty, space-savvy tales that could one day keep Earth well, earthly.
Spot on. We're cozied up with space-style recycling, but here's the kicker. What works for Commander Astro might not be a hit with Joe Public. Our systems are leagues apart from those sleek spaceship life support gigs. Picture your apartment block. Piping in yesterday's sweat just doesn't have that new home smell. Still, snippets of space wisdom can seep in and moisten Earth's sustainability soil. A pinch of space ingenuity to greenify our world, create tech that recycles more weirdly, more wonderfully. The biggest hurdle isn't technology, it's us humans getting comfy with change. Inch by inch, right? If we start seeing recycled resources the way we view secondhand clothes, less ew and more cool, we might just recycle our way into a snazzier, more sustainable lifestyle.
Agreed, Simon. It's that human element, isn't it? So how do we blend space innovation with our daily grind to make recycling resources more appealing and less of an ew factor for everyone?
Piece of cake. Let's rocket launch a cool factor into recycling. Make it sexy, not just sensible. Like if Elon Musk styled bins to sort trash with an app showing your impact. People love feeling like heroes in their own eco-saga. And here's the twist. Play up the strange and bizarre. We glamorize space toilets that turn P to T. Why not Earth versions? Pro tip, though. Maybe don't call it that at the dinner table. Our mission: hitch our wagons to stellar hype, but keep it grounded. Space tech minus the cringe. Make eco-living the new norm by sparking intrigue, not turning stomachs. We're crafting Earth's sequel, not a sci-fi sideshow, right?
So speaking of giving recycling a glamorous spin, I've got this story that's spot on. Back in college, my buddy, let's call him Eco Dave, he was all into sustainability before it was a hashtag. Dave shows up at our dorm with this contraption he welded himself. It was part trash sorter, part art project. It had all the other students stopping and staring, some even taking pics. This thing became the talk of campus, not because it sorted recyclables like a champ, but because it was fun, weird, and honestly, kind of beautiful in its own right. By the end of the semester, there were copycat bins popping up all over, looking just as funky. It wasn't about being eco-friendly anymore. It was about being part of Dave's cool recycling revolution. That's the power of making something mundane into something magnetic. It sticks.
Man, that's magic right there. Eco Dave's like the Pied Piper of recycling, turning a snooze-fest task into this rad, can't-miss event. Once you wrap something up in a story, in character, it's no longer just doing the right thing. It's being part of something that's bigger than yourself, a wave you want to ride. It's the same with our space chat. It's not about guilting folks into recycling. It's about making them want to be part of this epic, earth-saving space saga. Stellar moves. Dave.
So, if we took a leaf out of Eco Dave's playbook, how could we transform other yawn tasks into epic, story-worthy adventures that everyone wants to be part of?
I'm telling you, it's not about changing the task. It's about changing the game. Slap some narrative on those yawn chores. Launch an app that turns sorting your trash into a zombie survival run, or a competition with leaderboards in your neighborhood. Who says saving the planet can't be an epic quest? Let's tap into that gamer spirit, gamify the mundane, and suddenly, everyone's lining up to level up their green creds. Here's the plot twist: making Earth triumphant in the Universal Championship of Sustainability. Your move, fellow Earthlings. How will you keep our story going?
Surviving a zombie trash apocalypse on Earth is one thing, but what about flexing our green thumbs somewhere redder? You know where I'm headed. If we're talking about taking care of our own planet, it's only natural to wonder how we'd fare with a garden plot that's a bit more Martian. Yeah, you heard right. We're going from composting in the backyard to potentially growing greens on Mars. What's it going to take for plants to dig into that extraterrestrial soil? Or should I say, regolith? Let's get our hands dirty and find out.
Here's the dirt on Martian farming. That red stuff on Mars isn't your grandma's potting soil. It's regolith, sharp, lacking organic matter, and comes with a side of toxic perchlorates. So yeah, Earth plants would throw a fit if we just plopped them down as is. It's like asking a fish to chill in a tree. Nope, but here's where it gets juicy. Scientists are hacking this interplanetary gardening gig. By mixing Martian regolith with Earth organics, or designing special greenhouses, we're inching closer to making space veggies a thing. Imagine remote-controlled robo-farmers nurturing these extraterrestrial sprouts under bubble domes. We've got LED grow lights instead of sunlight, and maybe even hydroponics looping in recycled spaceship water. The goal? To eventually churn out leafy salads using high-tech wizardry and a dash of Martian magic. Plus, terraforming Mars ain't solely a plant's job. But kickstarting the process with some photosynthesizing pioneers could pave our way to a red planet garden party. Wild, right?
Absolutely wild. But let's throw a little shade on this rosy Martian farm picture. Yeah, science makes it sound like we're one step away from sowing our cosmic oats, but real talk, even with the smartest greenhouses and robots, we're not planting apple trees on Mars anytime soon. Let's poke some holes in this bubble dome dream. First off, no breezy Martian afternoons. The atmosphere's thin, radiation levels are brutal, and can we chat about that almost non-existent water situation? And toxicity aside, perchlorate-laden soil needs more than a sprinkle of earth magic to be farm-worthy. We've got to ask, is all the high-tech hoopla really the best first step to turning Mars into a garden spot, or are we space dreaming too far ahead of ourselves? Maybe our Martian garden party needs to start with something simpler, algae or bacteria that could take a hit from cosmic rays better than your average tomato.
No doubt. Picture Martian microbe mixers transforming that toxic soil into primo-plant real estate. It's not space farm glam, but hey, baby steps before we bust out the space overalls and robo-tractors, right?
Yeah, for sure. Gotta think about the small wins, man. These microbial pioneers could be the unsung heroes of terraforming. Starting small, laying down the foundation. We're not gonna jump straight into a full-blown biodome with redwoods and mangoes on Mars. It's all about those initial tiny steps that set up the big leaps for mankind, you know?
Tiny steps are great, but what if they're too tiny? We've got these robo-rovers rolling around Mars right now. Why not dream big and start those greenhouses sooner rather than later? Algae and bacteria are cool for soil prep, sure, but they lack the wow factor to get everyone hyped up about space. Greenhouses loaded with thriving plants could be the billboard we need to seriously fire up public interest and funding. Why wait for microbes to party when we can engineer tougher plants right now? It's a complex puzzle, sure, but the payoff could rocket launch us way beyond those baby steps.
Engineering hardy plants, that's the spirit. Microbes do the groundwork with less glamour, sure, but picture a Mars greenhouse brimming with supergreens tailored for toughness. Dive into that genetic toolkit, and what if we get Earth plants to play nice with Martian grime directly? Why envision just algae when you can have genetically jacked tomatoes, space spinach, out-of-this-world oranges? Yeah, these are mega leaps, but imagine researchers tweaking plant DNA to handle regolith and low pressures. Greenhouses as biotech labs, not just glass boxes. That'll slam the gas on public imagination and science. We strap on our space boots, pop the biodome doors open, Earth meets Mars, the color of life on red soil. It's paint or plant, but someone's got to take the brush, huh?
Totally. With Earth's finest minds armed with genetic blueprints and high-tech gear, who knows what cosmic gardens we could be sowing? It's a vast, starry greenhouse waiting to blossom. So, fellow Earth tenders, what out-of-this-world veggies would you want in your otherworldly garden? Let's get those terraforming dreams growing.
Speaking of interplanetary horticulture, it nudges us right to the edge of a philosophical cliff. Think about this. As we craft these cosmic green spaces, are we stepping into territory that's a bit divine? Diving deep here, what does it really mean for us, as a species, to take Earth's greenery and spread it across the stars? Sure, it's science, but there's an ethical beat we've got to vibe with too. When we talk about creating ecospheres in space, we're not just playing with dirt and seeds, we're potentially reshaping the biological narrative of a whole other world. That's more than science. It's legacy. It's power. Ethically, shouldn't we tread lightly?
So, you're saying there's a real moral weight to all this cosmic cultivation. I'm wondering, where do we draw the line between pioneering science and respecting an alien world as we find it?
I remember this camping trip I took as a kid, right in the heart of this lush, untouched forest. One night, we found this huge anthill, and my friend was about to stomp on it, claiming it'd be cool to see what happens. But my dad stopped him, gave us a piece of his mind. He said nature's like an intricate clock, every gear spinning just so. Mess with one gear, say, a seemingly insignificant anthill, and the whole clock could go haywire. That moment stuck with me. We have the power to do incredible things, sure, but always with respect for the system that's already there, whether it's an anthill on Earth or a potential ecosystem on Mars. It's about harmony, not dominance, exploration, not exploitation, you know?
That's deep, man. Reminds me of this old fish tank I had. One day I get this exotic plant, thinking it'll liven up the scene. Looks harmless, right? Wrong. That thing took over like a mini Godzilla in an aquarium city. Overgrew, sucked up resources, fish were stressed, and I'm playing marine janitor every other day. The lesson? Even with the best intentions, messing with ecosystems is like opening Pandora's box underwater or on Mars. You think you're sprucing up the place. Next thing you know, you've got an ecological soap opera on your hands. So, if we go terraforming planets, we better remember that fish tank. Every move we make ripples across the whole ecosystem.
You got it. Now let's flip the script a second, considering your fish tank fiasco and my anthill anecdote. It's a given, we've learned hard lessons about meddling with Mother Nature. But what's our endgame on Mars? Leave it barren because we fear playing God? There's a line somewhere, right? Suppose we sit back, hands off, viewed through rovers' cameras forever. That's a whole planet, potentially ripe for life, science untapped. A blank canvas we're too scared to touch. It's not just about ethics, it's survival, evolution, legacy even. We've had our eco-disasters, but does past recklessness doom future brilliance? Shouldn't we have the courage to learn from Earth to responsibly ignite life elsewhere? Where do you stand on that precipice, looking out at the stars?
I'm towing the line between respect for what's out there and our own evolutionary push, you know? If we're too timid because of ethics, we might miss a boat that's not just about science, but also about survival. Sure, we've made mistakes on Earth, but that's the whole human gig, stumbling, learning, evolving. Maybe it's not playing God if we're careful stewards, thoughtful in our cosmic gardening. Turning a blind eye to Mars's potential feels like wasted opportunity. We got brains, curiosity, drive, maybe even some wisdom from past slip-ups. We're wired to reach out, grow, and adapt. To me, that's nature doing its thing through us as much as anything else on this green and blue ball we call home.
So, you're embracing the idea that human expansion, even on Mars, could just be nature's own extension, that pushing boundaries is in our DNA. But do ethics change when the garden we're playing with isn't on our home turf? How does your fish tank saga weigh in on this nature through us perspective?
Hey, for those just tuning in, we've been orbiting the ethics of exporting Earth's green thumbs to Martian soil. Quick catch-up. We're pondering if sprinkling our plant pals on Mars is like stepping into Mother Nature's boots. Is it pushing the survival instinct envelope, or are we just meddling with alien ecosystems? We've got tech and smarts, but does that give us free rein to reshape a world? What's responsible exploration versus cosmic overreach? Fun stuff, huh? Stick around as we keep unwrapping this galactic garden debate.
On the flip side, let's park the space tractor for a sec and look at why we might pump the brakes on terraforming. You've got to consider, maybe these alien worlds have their own ecological destinies, entirely separate from our Earth-centric visions. There's this concept of planetary protection, keeping celestial bodies in their natural states. Moreover, some argue Mars should be preserved for scientific study, like a cosmic Yellowstone. Just because we can do something, does that mean we should? What if Martian life is waiting under a rock somewhere, and we roll in with Earth seeds and squash it before it's even had its moment? It's not just caution, it's respect for potential native ecosystems and the unknown. Maybe we're stewards, or maybe we're just guests who haven't learned how to mind our manners out there in the void.
Interesting points. But there's another angle. What if Martian microbes are actually out there, clinging to life in a rocky nook or cranny? Could our earthly exports offer a helping hand, uplifting the whole Mars vibe? Sure, we should pause for respect and thorough study, but let's not close our minds to the possibilities. The question remains, where is that boundary between precaution and potential in our cosmic backyard?
You just touched on something that really ties into what's on the research horizon. Scientists aren't just mulling over Martian microbes. There's a whole other dance happening with moon maneuvers. We're looking at organisms not only to survive but thrive in lunar conditions. Space is suddenly a bioengineering sandbox. We've got these extremophiles, Earth's toughest critters, being eyed up for moon missions. Picture it. Scientists are diving deep into their DNA, tinkering away to prep these tiny powerhouses for lunar living. But with great genetic power comes great responsibility, right? Unraveling and restitching DNA strands for space survival surely makes you wonder, where do we draw that ethical line in the cosmic sand?
So, when these scientists are splicing and dicing extremophile genes, it's like they're tailoring tiny astronaut suits on a cellular level. Crazy, right? But seriously, what do you think, Joe? Are we stepping over an ethical boundary by engineering life forms for the moon? Or is this just a natural extension of scientific progress?
I get the science rush here, it's fascinating. But re-engineering life for a lunar zip code feels like we are not just crossing boundaries, we're redrawing them on a universal scale. Picture this. We send these Frankenbugs to the moon, tailored for survival in an alien world. Survival? Yes. But at what cost? Is this just human curiosity repackaged as progress? What if these engineered organisms mutate or go wild? We risk turning the moon into a petri dish with no off switch. It's one thing fixing up a space station. It doesn't have an ecosystem. The moon might be barren, but who says it's our playground to experiment with life itself? Sure, we play in the genetic sandbox to understand life better, but shouldn't there be a bold line when it comes to toying with its nuts and bolts outside Earth?
Definitely, Joe. I feel that tug in my stomach, too, the mix of awe and a bit of dread when we talk about unleashing engineered tiny tenants on the moon. It's like we're kids with the ultimate science kit, but no clear instructions on when to stop. While messing with genetics here is one thing, doing it in a place with no rules or repercussions gives me the creeps, honestly. Our ambition's as large as the rocket boosters we strap these bugs to, but there's always that shadow, isn't there? The what-ifs, the second guesses. I mean, just because we can knit sweaters for bacteria, does it mean we should send them to freeze or fry up there? Yeah, we need answers. But I wonder if some questions are better left alone in the cosmic library.
Hey, everyone joining in, we've been floating around a pretty stellar topic, turning microorganisms into moon movers through bioengineering. It's like giving these little guys custom-made spacesuits at the microscopic level. Scientists are busy playing genetic jazz, improv with DNA, to make these extremophiles comfy in lunar conditions. But don't get it twisted. Amidst that sci-fi excitement, there's a serious note of caution. We've been weighing the cool factor against the should we really be doing this ethical seesaw. Does advancing science give us a green light to engineer life for otherworldly adventures? It's not all black and white. There's a galaxy of gray in this cosmic conundrum. Stick with us as we keep untangling this web of moonlight mystery.
Oh, giving bacteria tiny moon boots and shipping them off to the moon's got me thinking. What if one of those little guys gets up there, takes a look around, and is like, y'all couldn't have sent me to Miami instead? It's like inviting your friend over for a pool party, but forget to mention you don't own a pool. Welcome to the moon. Now, good luck finding a corner with Wi-Fi.
Exactly. Cracks me up imagining a microbe with a tiny suitcase, showing up for the lunar life and finding out it's nothing but rocks and dust. The ultimate bait and switch. But let's park the jokes for a second. Seriously though, these engineered organisms could kickstart something revolutionary. If they can build a life from nothing up there, imagine the possibilities. Moon bases, self-sustaining ecosystems. It's high-stakes science fiction turning into fact. Still, we've got to put our ethics hat on tight, because playing cosmic landlord has some serious implications. What are we signing up for when we ship Earth's biology off-planet? Guess it's one small step for bacteria, one giant leap for mankind's moral compass.
Sure, making the moon more habitable sounds noble. Build a lunar greenhouse, start popping up bases. Bingo bango, we're the cosmic Johnny Appleseeds. But pause right there. When did we decide to swing around life like it's a hammer and every planet's a nail? I know I sound like that one friend at a party who hears bingo and thinks they said Jenga, but hear me out. We're talking about turning an entire celestial body into our science project. And not just any project, the kind where if you mess up, there's no coming back on Monday to try again. We could be introducing Earth's biology to an environment that might already have its own set of rules, and what if we overwrite them? It's kind of like getting a tattoo. It's all fun and games until you realize it's permanent and you've got Mars or bust inked on your arm. Let's keep towing this space rope and poke at what really makes sense for our extraterrestrial endeavors. Maybe we should learn to treat planets more like libraries, full of unknown stories, not blank pages for us to write over. What's your take, Joe?
Diving into the nitty-gritty of this whole idea, let's not forget that Nack's actually been at the crossroads of engineering and space exploration for a hot minute. Take the gene editing tool CRISPR. It's been on scientists' radars as a way to beef up plants and microorganisms against harsh space conditions, radiation, low gravity, extreme temperatures. Now consider Project Genesis. It's the kind of cutting-edge science that sounds like it popped right out of a novel. The aim? To use extremophiles from extreme environments here on Earth and soup up their survival features for moon living. Think about tweaking photosynthesis so plants can take whatever weak light they get on the moon and do more with it. These projects tap into the real potential of bioengineering as a tool for extraterrestrial colonization. It's a fusion of biology and tech, making ecosystems tailored for space. But don't twist it. There are heaps of unknowns in messing with life at its core, especially when you hit the launch button and send it 250,000 miles away. There is planting trees, and then there's starting an entire forest from scratch in a lunar crater. The stakes? As high as the rocket fuel can reach.
All right, squad, that's a wrap for today's cosmic journey. Huge thanks to everyone who beamed in. Your ears are what keep our spaceship cruising. Remember this, you're all part of the Infinite Podcast crew now. Same time tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern, come back for another slice of our humble pie of curiosity, splashed with a dash of humor. If you enjoyed the big brain banter and galactic giggles, don't miss out. Your seat's reserved. Until then, keep spinning on this wild rock, and always look up. Space out, folks.
Well, spinning off from where we docked last time, let's not just look at microbes as tiny astronauts themselves. On Earth, there are silent partners in crime, right? They help digest our food, shield against diseases, the unsung heroes of human life. Now picture that symbiosis on an interstellar level. Custom-tailored microbes guarding our star sailors against space sickness or making life bearable on a barren asteroid. But broaching the morals, do microbes get a say when we draft them for Team Human settlements? Or is this space-age symbiosis verging on exploitation? Cozy as it is to have interstellar allies, there's a fine line between companionship and using microbes as mere survival tools. It's like inviting someone on a road trip, but only because they have a car. Sure, the destination matters, but how about the bond formed on the journey? Strap in. This is going to be one wild ride through ethics at light speed.
Imagine if these microbes could text us from space. New phone, who